Well, first off, thank you for joining. We give our Q&A sessions every week, Monday, 7 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. If you ever miss a session, you can always go to our YouTube channel, which is Career Innovations. It's all one word. And we usually try to upload them every 24 to 48 hours. Right now, we've been backed up, so we've probably been updating them about once a week. So you will get the latest one within the next week or so. If this is your first time joining GoToWebinar platform, you can ask questions one of two ways depending on how you logged in. If you logged in and actually entered your audio PIN number, that means you can raise your hand and I can unmute your mic and you can verbally ask your question and we can all hear your beautiful voice. If you did not do your audio PIN or you just don't want to talk with us tonight, you can use the chat box and ask a question by typing in your question. Hold all the questions towards the end. I do ask that people send their questions prior, so when you register for this workshop, there's an option to actually enter a question. Say that you registered a week or two in advance and you thought of a question. I do provide you my email, which you can email me your question. This way we can actually put your questions on the slide and give you more of a thought through answer versus something that we might think of at the top of our head. So that's one thing I do urge everybody to do, is to send their questions prior to the workshop. Following the workshop, I open up the floor. You're able to ask all the questions that you like. This topic is hard hat area job search in progress. A little bit about Career Innovations. I do a 30-second overview. If you're not familiar with Career Innovations, we are an executive search firm. I am the director of Career Innovation as well as the founder. I find ourselves as true innovators. We find unconventional and untraditional methods to locate top talent. One of my true passions is organizational development and change. I really truly believe in organizational culture. Starts with the company's core values. It's the foundation for attracting and retaining top talent. As you can see, some of the services that we do offer, of course, you're attending one is our training. We do our compensation benchmarking, of course, our headhunting and recruiting, referral and retention workshops. And I like to start each workshop either with one of my favorite quotes or today's quote, a quote that I might found. Usually all the quotes I find become my favorite quote. So I do like to start one off with a quote. Today's quote is, "When obstacles arise, you change your direction to reach your goal. You do not change your decision to get there." And there are a lot of people that, when things get tough, instead of trying to find or figure out different ways to reach that solution, sometimes they change their whole decision to even get there. So we're going to try to find ways of not being able to, downplay your career search or, take that position just because, and really try to reach your overall goal. And again, as a search firm, we do offer these because, of course, we reach out to candidates on a daily basis and we get resumes every day, every week, day in and day out. And we're unable to place every single person that we receive. So that's why we offer this workshop or these services, to be able to reach out to the people that we're unable to place, to give you the tools to be able to reach out and land those jobs on your own as well. Let's start off with the questions that we had that were sent in prior to the workshop. Ask me anything is always my theme. These are your questions. Where is the best place to find remote or telecommute opportunities? How can I get my online application to be called for an interview? Where is the best place to post my resume? Are cover letters necessary anymore? Looking to make a career change, how long would the job search process take? Okay, let's start off with the first question. Where are the best places to find remote or telecommute opportunities? There are niche sites out there, and I've actually put some up here if you want to copy them down. Really, working remotely can very much be industry based. As you probably already know, not all firms or jobs are going to be suited for telecommunication. It's just not going to be an option. So depending on your industry, and again, your industry, the person that asked this question did not outline what industry they were in or what industry they were going into. But telecommunication, that is something that the employer offers if it's going to benefit them. And of course, it's going to be somewhat increased morale for the organization. Of course, there are all types of benefits for the employer and for the employee. The reason why I'm going to tell you these things, because at the end of the day, you can negotiate this. And I'm a firm believer everything's negotiable, not just your salary. And people don't understand when they're at that round table with these decision makers, they have leverage. And it doesn't always have to be your compensation or your benefits. It can be your time off. It can be this right here, working remotely. You can put this all on the negotiation, all on the table, up to negotiation. So you definitely want to use this to your advantage. But you want to make sure that this is something feasible and it makes sense for the employer. Of course, the things that you can use for your advantage, you can tell them this is going to cut costs. And of course, a lot of employers are starting to see the advantages of this. It does cut costs. It cut travel costs for the employee. I've actually had candidates willing to take a pay cut if they could work from home. They're willing to take, $10,000, $15,000 pay cut for the option to work from home every day. So there are options there, and people are willing to negotiate their salary to do this. Some of the downsides that employers look at when they don't post this, because you'll see a lot of opportunities that are posted online that may be open to working remotely, but they won't put it in the job description. You know why? Because if you ever look up a job, especially on LinkedIn, because they actually tell you how many people applied to the position. But if you go on LinkedIn and you look up any type of virtual job, I can guarantee you there are probably going to be 3 to 4 times more applicants than regular positions, because everybody's applying to you. And I can tell you, some people are applying based just because it's virtual. They may not even be qualified, but just because it's a work-at-home position, they're applying. And employers know this. So a lot of times employers don't put this in the job description. This is something that's discussed, as an option with the employee once they are able to identify the candidate they want, and they're able to talk to them and see if this is something that they are able to put in as an option. So I can tell you a lot of employers aren't even putting in the post because they know they're going to get an increased amount of people that are going to apply, and that's not necessarily always good, especially when you have people that are going to apply that are not qualified. Something that you also need to think about when looking for positions remotely, and I say this for people that are non-IT, because I know a lot of people that are in IT, that's all they do. They've always worked virtual, and that's just the type of environment that IT provides. They can work in a virtual environment. But if you're in a non-IT environment, and this can go for IT as well, some of the things I see employees deal with by working remotely, they become isolated. They feel no connection with others that they work with at work because they're at home. And the only connection they have is either through a teleconference or, these are pretty much positions that are either 85 to 100%, virtual. They may only meet up once a month. And at that time you lose a clear boundaries between your work that needs to be done in your home life. You also lose a sense of communication with your boss and with your employees and your coworkers. If you're in the management, it takes a certain type of manager to be able to manage a virtual team. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of motivation to get people to motivate themselves. Again, you're not going into the office. Some people find that it's harder to work at home because they have no clear direction on what needs to be done. You can't simply go down to Bob's office and ask for help on something that you're stuck on. You may have to IM him, but guess what? His IM is off, or he's not responding to emails quickly. So now something that you could have got completed that day, you now have to put off until you can get that communication with that person. So I've seen some barriers with virtual work that many people that have worked in this environment, they can say, hey, it's all good and fun until you actually got to get work done. So that's something you also want to consider as well. But I tell you this because if you do want to negotiate this, and again, this has to be something that makes sense for the employer, you definitely can, not 100% remote, but if you can negotiate, hey, I'll come in the office Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, and I'm off Tuesdays and Thursdays. Or if you want that 3-day weekend, hey, I'll come in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, and I work home Thursday and Friday. So you can figure out ways to negotiate this, that there's some type of meeting of the minds to make this possible. Again, the niche sites you can look at is weworkremotely.com, flexjobs.com, telecommuterjobs.net, telesource.com. Odesk and Elance are more freelance sites, but they do offer sometimes part-time or full-time employee for the right person. But those actually take work to look through because you're going to get a lot of spam, a lot of positions that are either very low pay or the companies aren't established. So you're going to have some jobs like that as well. So that takes a little bit of work if you're not familiar with that platform. And some of these like FlexJob, they require you to pay. To be totally honest with you, Google's a beautiful thing. You can take some of the keywords from these job postings that they use, because a lot of times these job postings, they're streaming from another aggregator out there. So if you can find the keywords and plug it into Google, it'll bring you to the company or the posting in which the job is. So, I'm not real big on having to pay a fee every month to look at jobs. And I know Flex Jobs is like that, but I've actually read a review, and if you type in Flex Jobs review, it's an awesome review out there that would give you insight on someone that actually used it and saw that it was pretty much easier just to take the job, take out keywords, and find the job elsewhere. Because a lot of the jobs that are posted on Flex Jobs are actually aggravated through Indeed, LinkedIn, or other postings that are free. So why waste your money paying a monthly fee for that? Next question was, how do I get my online application to be called back for an interview? Okay, and I put this up here, and hopefully it's not too blurry, but this is called I call it applicant tracking system friendly. This was something I found actually by Quintessential Careers. You can actually look them up online as well. I thought this was a great resource to go back to when you're putting your resume together for an ATS system. You're getting rid of the fluff, you're getting rid of the borders, and all that type of stuff, and you're making this something almost like a text file that's going to be used to find keywords, because that's what the ATS is searching for. And some of the key things that I tell anybody that's posting their resume online, but not only posting online, but you're applying to jobs through these career portals, is to make sure that you're using a doc format or a text format. And how ugly a text file looks, I already know. I've used text file. It's brutal to look at. But that's what the ATS reads. Characters. They're not looking for font sizes. They're not looking for color. They're not looking for graphics. They're looking for pure text. So unfortunately, though it's not the attractive resume, this is something that you may have to use. I tell people to veer away from PDFs. Even though we give our resumes, when we reformat resumes, we do offer a PDF, but we also offer a Word document as well, because we know that people are going to be using this to upload in ATSs. Again, don't use any type of fancy templates, borders, or shadings. Please delete any type of tables. I see some people under accomplishments or under key attributes or characteristics they may have, that put it kind of like in a grid, which is a chart. The ATS isn't picking that up. That to them is a block of blah. That it can't read that block that you just put there. So make sure that you're not using any type of tables or columns or anything in your resume. And again, make sure you're using standard file. And again, if you're working with a text file, this is this is probably not even relevant to take, because you can't even use this stuff in the text file. That's why it's so compatible with an ATS. So you could take a look at this. Again, note special characters. Make sure that you're spelling out full versions of what you do. CPA, Certified Public Accountant. You know, you want to make sure that you're using full spelled out versions. Again, it's not picking up, you know, unless they have it programmed to pick this up, they're going to be picking up words. So you want to make sure that you're using the complete words and not using, I know we use acronyms for everything, and we understand this, but a lot of these ATSs don't. You know, so you want to make sure that you're actually writing what you mean. The critical do's and don'ts, and I put in here about applying to a position, do use the exact job title on your resume somewhere at the top. Even if you're not doing the job, you don't have to list it as your most current job. You can use it as a header for your resume, you know, for the job title that you're applying for. You know, because they're picking that up. You know, do include your phone number, email. Again, it's picking all that stuff up. And if you really want to know how your resume is reviewed, if you ever upload your resume and it tells you to parse it, and you've parsed your resume and it's all scrambled up in the fill in the blocks, and you're like, what's the point of me parsing it? I have to fill in the blocks anyway, because I have to go back and delete all the stuff that's, you know, that's parsed wrong. That's what it's picking up, because it's reading it how you typed it in. So you want to make sure that you're putting things in the correct format, so when it does parse your resume, you know, it's able to fill in the blanks accordingly. Do be mindful of the special characters. Don't list your credentials after your name, and that's a big one. A lot of people on their resume, they'll put the title of their name, you know, Jane Doe, and, you know, comma PhD or comma MBA or whatever the case may be. You know, for an ATS system, you want to refrain from doing that. Of course, you'll put your credentials under your education section, but I would not confuse the ATS, because they're going to look at that as part of your name. You definitely want to make sure that you do that as well. And again, don't submit multiple resumes at the same company unless they have a portal in which you can upload several ones and you pick the one that you want to submit. That's fine. But if you're applying to a position and you're applied one time using one resume, then you're applied second time using another resume, that can throw an ATS system off as well, because they're going to look at this person applied 3 times for this position, and sometimes these ATS systems will kick you out of error. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that as well. If you do want to take a better look at this, or you want to copy on your own, again, visit Quintessential Careers. You can type this in. It takes you directly to their website, and they actually have this, and you can you know, make a copy of it or keep it or print it out and have it and use it in your discretion as well when you're putting together your resume. The best way, and I call it the most friendliest way to get your resume in front of someone, is to send your resume directly to the hiring authority. This is pretty much the most foolproof way I can tell you that, you know, confirms that the intended party receives it. And a lot of people don't do this because I tell people it's too much like work. You have to actually find a decision maker. We're not talking about HR. I'm not talking about send it to the recruiter or the HR manager. I'm talking about send it to the direct hiring authority that's actually hiring for the position. Virtually the person that you'll be reporting to. That's who you want to have your resume, because guess what? They're the ones that's going to make the decision whether or not they want to hire you or not. So you want to make sure that that person gets your resume, you know, and the only foolproof way of doing that is sending it to them directly, you know, and that way you can find them on LinkedIn, you can look up their emails, look up their contact information, and get in front of them. And I'm not saying don't apply online, because many times they're going to direct you to their online application anyway. And that's fine. But guess what? You just got your resume in front of 500 or 600 other people that have already applied to that job because they have it on their desk now. So you definitely want to make sure that you can do that. I think that's the most secure way to get that resume to the person that makes that hiring decision. Posting a resume. Where are the best places to post my resume? And I put several options on here. Your resume is kind of a billboard of you, what you've done in your professional experience, your professional background, and you want to make sure that everyone sees it. Or do you? That's something that you have to ask yourself, and of course you have the same typical job boards that you can post it on, but you have to ask yourself, where do you want to be discovered? And not only that, you want to also put on your consultant hat and say, where would someone that's looking for this type of person be looking? If you were a recruiter looking for project managers or looking for marketing managers, where are you going to look? So you want to make sure that you're posting your resume not just everywhere, but the places that are going to be most effective. So you want to find out where you want to be discovered. You can do job boards. I highly recommend niche sites. So industry-related sites that you can go to. And when I say industry-related sites, we're also talking about associations as well. Many of these associations are open to job seekers regardless if you're a member or not. And you can upload your resume without being a member. There are a lot of organizations that don't require membership for you to take participation in their job board or job portals that they have available to the public. And a lot of employers use these industry related sites because they know that they can have a laser focus on a particular industry. I know for us, for HR, we have Society of Human Resource Management, known as SHRM. If they want an HR professional, they know to go to SHRM's website and look in their career portal database. And they're going to see nothing but HR resumes. Same thing with marketing. If I want to find a marketing person, I'm going to go to the American Marketing Association and look in their career database. Why? Because I know it's going to be nothing but marketing professionals in there. So you want to be wise about your job search as well. So post your resume where you're going to get the most effective traction. Social media as well. If you're on LinkedIn, and if you're not, you're at a disadvantage if you don't have a profile and you're not using your profile. Twitter's another thing. There are different ways that you can upload your resume as a tweet and tweet it out to decision makers. Pinterest, a lot of people create their pin boards or Pinterest boards around their job search. That's a possibility. Get creative. Or you can use in a staff or temp agency. Be mindful if you do, because staff and temp agencies, they're working on the behalf of the employer. And I put this out there because if they don't have a position, your resume just may as well sit there, until something comes up that they can place you in. So you want to be mindful when you also reach out to staffing agencies because they're going to be looking at the bottom line of their employer. So if they don't have a position, your resume just may be fouled. It may only be searchable if they're looking for that type of experience level that you can give. Keep in mind, I want to also put out there blasting your resumes. There are people that, put out their resume on 100 jobs board sites, and this could be a self-defeating strategy. What happens when you post your job to so many places, you're unable to customize it for a specific employer or a specific opportunity. So you want to make sure that you're not putting it in so many places that you cannot customize your resume to a specific job. That's some things that an employer may see, and you may be able to do a job, but if you have this cookie cutter resume, a one-size-fits-all resume, you may be looked over at an opportunity that you could actually do just because your resume is just so general. So don't some people want to play it safe, but sometimes safe can be sorry. You don't want to paint yourself in a corner. Also, something that Career Innovations does, we do a market analyst, and that's something that we offer as well to job seekers, that we'll actually go out there and look at the market, look at jobs that are out there, and we distribute your resume to customized jobs that you approve. Doesn't guarantee it doesn't no way, shape, or form guarantee employment, but it's more of a targeted search versus, I call it spaghetti search, where you throw it out there and see what sticks. You don't want to do that as well. And not only that, that also can hurt you and your credibility, because it's going to be like, this resume is everywhere. Why aren't they hiring them? They may look at it, may be something wrong with you if you have it everywhere and you're still looking for a job a year later. So that way you do want to have some type of leverage, and not only leverage, some type of restraint on where you're going to put that resume, regardless if you're trying to do a confidential search or not. Next question was cover letter or not. Are cover letters necessary anymore? I know that most jobs nowadays is making it optional. They're kind of say upload your resume, cover letter optional. And I can see why, because I can see many recruiters or HR managers aren't reading them. But there's a reason why they're not reading cover letters. Many cover letters aren't built with substance. They're not saying anything. And if you're not saying anything, who wants to read a book about nothing? So a lot of times, you're right, cover letters are overlooked because they're really not explaining what the employer needs. Keep in mind, I love how Liz Ryan, and I don't know if you follow her on LinkedIn, she's great with career advice. I know that she calls cover letters paying letters. And in a way, it is a paying letter. It's a pain they have when they have this job open. I like to call cover letters a solution letter. You're solving a problem for the employer. It's a reason why they have that job opening. They don't have it open just to, pay you a salary or just to put you through school or put your kids through school. That's not the reason why they have it. They have it open because the company has a problem that needs to be solved. That's what your cover letter should be addressing. And many cover letters are not. First, it should be a warm introduction. Usually the first sentence or two, you should be telling a little bit about yourself and about the position that you're applying to. Unfortunately, that's what makes up the whole letter in some cases. That's why they don't get read, because I don't want to read about you in 3 or 4 paragraphs. I have a problem. Unless you're telling me a solution, everything else is irrelevant. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that warm introduction pretty much short and sweet, that first sentence or two. Make sure that you explicitly state the name or particular position in the organization or multiple positions that you are applying to. Next thing, your cover letter is a platform. You want to make sure that you're using your cover letter to sell a solution. Why are you the best fit? What accomplishments have you made or that you're currently making that make you unique, that make you competitive over everyone else that's applying to this job? Many people aren't doing this in cover letters. They're talking about I. This is what I did. This is what I had to do. This is what I was hired to do. And after a while, you're right. No one wants to read it past the first paragraph. Next, you want to have your solution. How do you plan to solve their problem? If they're having a sales role, a marketing role, a project management role, and they're looking to fill that position, they're looking for someone to solve their problem. What goals do you have in place to achieve this? If you are hired, that's something that you could address in the cover letter as well. One thing that cover letters are looked at as a way of communication. Bear in mind that letters that you write not only convey your interest and qualification, but it also gives the employer an opportunity to observe your attentiveness to detail, spelling, grammar, and the overall quality of your written communication. This is what they're looking for as well in your cover letter. And also your highlights. This is a place to put things in there that you probably couldn't fit in your resume, but something that you do want to focus on, or something in your resume that you want to highlight in the cover letter so they can take a look at it in your resume. So this should be a way to highlight certain qualifications that may otherwise be overlooked in a resume. Because say if your resume is 3 or 4 pages, and that's understandable if it's a CV and you hold a doctor's degree and you've done patents and wrote papers. There are resumes out there that are that long, and hate to say it, validly so, are warrant to be that long. But you might want to have a cover letter to convey some of the things in there that may be on page 3. Even if you have a 2-page resume, it may be some things that you want to stand out that may be at the end of page 2 that you couldn't fit on the first page. This is the way that you can show, and hopefully you can put those accomplishments in bullet point format. That's the easiest way to read it. Many employers don't have time to decipher your cover letter, try to pick out what you mean. So you want to be very clear and make sure this cover letter flows like it should. And again, are cover letter necessary? Absolutely. I think that this is something that you should be able to convey to the employer. Some people say it's not necessary. And again, I understand why they say that, but to put together a cover letter that's impactful is definitely necessary, and that's going to be the advantage that you can have over someone that doesn't submit one at all. And make sure that when you're submitting your cover letter, it's solution oriented. You're being able to put together some type of realistic plan on how you're going to solve their problem and back it up with experiences that you have accomplished with past employers. It's no good to say you can do something and you have no proof. Show me you can do it. When have you done it before? How did it work out when you did it that way? So you definitely want to be able to put in some facts that can go along with that those impactful statements that you make. Next one is looking to make a career change. How long would the job search process take? And this really depends. The time is so subjective to different industries, so I can't really give you a time and say I can guarantee you it's going to take you this long. Doesn't work that way. But I can tell you some factors that do impact the length of time it will take you. And if you're on the line and you're just now doing your search, or even if you've been looking for a long time, we're going to talk about some things that you can control and you can impact. We're also going to make aware of some things that you have no control over. Keep in mind, job search is a two-edged sword. You only have control over one side of it. So after you submit that application, you no longer have control over what happens after that. But you do want to make sure that you know the factors that are involved. The first thing, the salary is involved. The salary you want plays a huge role in how quickly you will find work. There are more low-paying jobs than higher ones. And I'm pretty sure someone said if I was looking for a job, I can get me a quick job easy if I didn't want nothing. And if I wanted little to nothing, and you may be on the line and have received offers for jobs that were drastically, below your salary requirements. Not to say you should have took it, but that lets you know that you're hireable. People will hire you, but the salary does impact whether or not you get hired or not. And unfortunately, higher paying jobs, again, the hiring process takes longer. If I'm going to hire a call center representative or a customer service rep and pay them $10, $12 an hour, and I need 20 or 30 people in a call center, guess what? I can hire these people, within a month's time. But if I'm looking to hire someone at $80,000 to $120,000, am I going to be hiring volumes of these type of people? Probably not. And I'm going to be a little bit more selective, and my process is going to be a little bit longer. So that salary is a determining factor. Demographics is your second one. The total number of businesses in your commutable area of where you want to live plays a big factor in how fast you secure a job. Look up statistics in your local area. What's your state or your city's unemployment rate? These are things that you should know. This is going to be a good indicator. Now, I'm not saying that number's 100% accurate. It's not, because a lot of people aren't reporting that they're unemployed or underemployed. Just because you got a job doesn't mean that you're employed. There are a lot of people out there working jobs that are, that are just making ends meet, and they're calling them employed. There are a lot of people that are drastically underemployed. So you do want to take a look at the total number of businesses in your area and look at, okay, how many positions are available in this area. That's going to determine how often, for one, are positions going to be available in your field. Just because they're hiring left and right. I remember I'm from Ohio, originally from Ohio. We were a manufacturing area right up the street. I call it up the street, but Detroit's not too far from where I grew up. We were a big manufacturing area. GM, Delphi, all those plants closed. We're no longer the big, huge manufacturing area, as we used to be. Not in Dayton. A lot of those manufacturers closed. Manufacturing companies closed. So guess what? A lot of people were out of work. So what happened? A lot of people had to leave the area to find work because, those positions left. They were either outsourced or they moved to different headquarters throughout the U.S. Next one is job search savvy. The majority of job seekers out there have no idea how to search for a job effectively. This lengthens their job search considerably. So if you've worked for a company and you haven't had to look for a job for the past 10 years and all of a sudden your company had a merger or acquisition and you got that pink slip and you got laid off, and the last time you had to look for a job was in 98 or 2000, and here we are in 2015, your job search techniques are going to be a little rusty. Your time to find a job is going to be definitely longer than someone that's been out there that's probably changed jobs 2 or 3 times within that time frame. They know what job boards they use. They know who to connect with. Now, that's something that you have to consider. Your network. Everyone has heard the statistics that 80% of jobs are gotten via referral. To get referral, you need a network. And I don't know how many times I've heard people mumble under their breath how the heck they get that job. Guess what? They knew someone. It had nothing to do with their experience. It had nothing to do with their degree. It had nothing to do with nothing. It had to do with who they knew. And everybody knows someone in their network. They got a job strictly off of who they knew. And you need to know that your network is gold. And if you don't have a network, I really do highly recommend that you start getting one. You start getting out there networking. Because these are the people that are going to be an advocate for you when you look for a job. So you want to make sure that you're out there, you're networking with people that can push you closer to your goal. Now, there are a lot of people out there that are competing for these same jobs. People don't understand. These people aren't more qualified than you. Your competition may have the same education as you, may have the same experience than you. And sometimes it may be less. I hate to say it, but it's the lie, it's the reality of it. Sometimes it may be less education than you. Sometimes it may be no experience. But it's about who they know that got them through that door. I see it happen all the time. So you want to make sure that you're packing down on your network. And I think that's all the questions that we have for tonight. And I am going to open the lines up. We have about 15 minutes, and I am going to open it up for anyone that has a question. I'd be more than happy to answer. And let me see, I do have someone with a question mark. If you do have a question, raise your hand, and I can help you out. I think someone said they couldn't hear, but they weren't able to. I said, did the session start? I can't hear anything. I see a green bar moving around indicating there should be sound. I guess that person has left. Okay. Next question is, if you do not have a lot of experience in a specific industry and a company requires you to have experience, How do you get it? Can you ask them or a similar company to hire you in a lower grade in order to get the experience? Well, I don't know how high of a position that you're applying for. If you want to type that in, I don't have to disclose it. I'll just know to give you a better answer. Um, you can, but keep in mind, they have a problem that needs to be solved. And the problem that needs to be solved may require that experience they're requiring. So it's a reason why they're asking for that type of experience. So again, could they make a position for you to gain experience? They could. But let's not beat around the bush. Companies aren't in business to give you experience. Companies aren't in business to give you a job. Unless they're a nonprofit, most companies are in business to compete and make money, and lots of it, and make their shareholders happy. So if you're asking, could they create a position for you to get experience? Yeah. Should you ask? Yeah. What do you have to lose? But I would start focusing on getting that experience from either their competitor, looking for a mentor that's already within the company that can get you up to speed. I had a candidate that was looking for a position that needed to learn a particular software, and they were unemployed, didn't have money to go to school. They self-taught themselves that software by using YouTube videos. And they did that, they did that session or self-session every day for like 2 or 3 weeks, and took the certification and got certified without even having to go to a formal brick and mortar to take these, to take this quote unquote pre-certification test. They were able to gain enough experience because the person wasn't working, so they had nothing but time. Simply said, they weren't in, it weren't like they were working a 9 to 5 and they were looking to make a career change. They were, laid off, unemployed at the time, had 12 hours a day to do something. They spent that day training themselves on a particular software that this company really wanted this person they were looking at to have, and they actually end up getting certified. So the question I have to ask you is how bad you want it, and what resources that you can use if you don't have the money to get, go in and get the experience or the qualifications. I will start looking at internships. I will start getting a mentor and gaining experience that way. Or start looking for positions that require little to no experience just to get your foot in the door. And once you gain that experience, start applying to the jobs that require experience. But I cannot sit here and say that a company will hire you on knowing that you don't have the experience, because guess what? They still have that problem. They hire you on, but now they're still hiring for this position that requires this level of experience. Hiring you didn't solve anything. So that's why I kind of have, dealing with putting my consultant hat on. That's why I kind of conflict with. And I hope that was able to answer your question. I have a question from someone. I'm trying to transition from the federal. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm trying to transition from the federal government to the private sector. And I did have your the position that you were looking to work in. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go back to your question. I'm just reading what she said. Yeah. So a managerial position. And most managerial positions, they're going to require that you've managed people. Have you managed a team before? I would start looking at, and they're free workshops. And I didn't put this on the slide because this wasn't one of the questions, but next time if you join me, I'll have a slide of free educational sites that you can go to that offer courses that you can take on managerial styles, understanding management. So even if you haven't experienced it, you can at least say, hey, I took classes in it and I study it. I kind of know how it works. That shows that you made an effort. Who knows? They might bite the bullet and bring you on if you have enough experience with the per se topic or industry. So I always say hire for character, train for experience. But who knows? No one listens to me. Next one I have is I'm trying to transition from federal government to the private sector. Good old federal government. You have a federal government job. Why do you want to leave? That's gold nowadays. The way these companies are folding under, you got to secure employment. But if you want to transition, I'll tell you how. Federal government, and you're trying to go into the private sector, first thing, I would look for companies that use federal government. Either, I don't know what part of the federal government that you're in, but I know that some companies use or outsource or are the third party. Sounds confusing. Hang in there with me. There are companies that the federal government uses as a third party to outsource for. That's why we call them government contractors. So if you can find one of these companies, and there's thousands of them out there that are a contractor of a government, and mind you, these are private companies that just have contracts with the government. Guess what? They want government employees. Why? Because you already know how the federal government works. That's something that they don't have to train you. You already know the ins and outs of the federal government. So a lot of times they look to hire veterans. They look to hire people that have already been in the federal government or been exposed even as a civilian, because you know how it operates. So if you're trying to transition out of the government to the private sector, the easiest way to do is to start looking at some of these private sector companies that are contracted out or they're contracted out to the government, or from the government, I should say. So there are a lot of companies that the company uses, a lot of private companies that they give a lot of work to. I don't know what industry you're in. If you send me it, I'll let you know. I can think one, aerospace engineering. Pratt & Whitney's one of them. They're a private company, but I can tell you, but the bulk of their income, the bulk of their revenue comes from government contracts. They are fueled by government workers. Some of them are, and they love to hire veterans. So I would start looking at companies that have close relationships with the government. That way, it's going to be an easier transition. So that's one thing I would do as well. Okay, I see the airline inspection, airport. Oh, then you should be good. You look for private companies in the airport and airline that uses the government, and I can tell you there's no airport or airline that does it. You would not find not one private airline or air inspection that does not have some branch of business somewhere in the government. Why? Because airline and airports are all government regulated. They have to be. It's federal law. So they're going to be companies, private or not, that are going to have some type of relationship with the federal government. So I would find those companies, locate those niche of companies, and start reaching out to them directly if they have positions open, or even if they don't. Make it known that you're looking, you're available, and you're willing to make that move. And I can guarantee you they're not going to pass up a federal employee, especially if they can get one that's ready to make a move. Most of that's gold to some of these private sectors that are looking for federal employees. Okay, do I have another question? I don't see any more questions tonight. I hope I was able to answer your questions all tonight. Okay, you said you tried several, no luck so far. Okay, and let me, if you can, because I don't want to hold everyone else up, if you can send me an email or shoot me in my email's up here, shoot me an email on what's your feedback been like. What you're applying for, what's your feedback been like? Or are you applying for, or are there positions that aren't available, or have you been looking and there's just no positions that exist? Again, these can be, in dealing with the government and private sector that deal with the government, it could be, first of all, it's hard to even get into get government jobs anyway. And anyone that's applied to the government jobs know it can, it's changed over the years. Let me put that out there. It has changed over the years, the process. But it can be lengthy even to get in the government, let alone a private sector that does contracts for the government. So maybe the positions aren't posted. Maybe you're not finding positions, or if you are, let me know what feedback you're receiving back. Maybe it's your qualifications. Maybe, the positions they're hiring for, they have a hiring freeze. I know for a while, the company I use, for example, had a hiring freeze for a while. Even though they had positions, hundreds of them posting on their site, they just were posted. No, they really weren't making any hiring decisions because, a lot of things were stalled during the recession. And you got to remember and that's one thing about private sector positions that depend on government contract. Your revenue is based on, whether or not contracts get approved or not. It's not as fluid as if you're doing a B2B, with regular private entities. Hey, if they don't approve it, you go on to the next one. What do you do if you have a 1.2 billion contract with the government? You just can't go on to the next one. You got to wait it out. So I can understand sometimes the bottom line could also affect the hiring decision on some of those positions. But like I said, shoot me an email. We can set up a time to talk, and I can see if I can give you some more specific tips on looking for work on that particular industry. And if there are no more questions, let me know. And you're welcome. Thank you so much for attending. And I don't see any more questions. It looks like we'll probably be ending about 5 minutes early. When you do close out, there's a survey. Please take the survey. It's only 8 questions. It lets me know and lets our team know how efficient these workshops are, the do's and don'ts, what things you want to see, what things you want us to take out, don't do anymore. Let us know so that way we can make these workshops more enjoyable and more informative for you. So definitely let us know with your feedback. If not, I'll see you next week, 7, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Have a good night. Thank you.